Welcome, welcome to the weekend eve. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Co-host and my brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny. How are you doing this evening, sir?
We're doing fine. We're excited to be here and looking forward to another great show.
Awesome. That'll work. And running the show behind the scenes, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, it's going just fine over here, just fine.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get into baseball. I know there's a lot of football we can discuss, but right now, this is the last week of the regular season. It ends on Sunday, and then we will have is it 6 teams in the playoffs in each division?
6 teams in each league, National League, American League. Only the division leader with the best record gets will get that bye. We'll have that those first 2 teams, and then we'll get the opportunity for a wild card game, and then a wild card series, division series, and then hopefully a league championship series, and then on to the World Series.
Well, I know for sure that Atlanta will get that first round bye because they are well ahead of everybody. Baltimore and Tampa Bay will be fighting out for it, which I believe Baltimore has either clinched it or they are like tied.
So Baltimore's down to they need one game. They need one game, and they'll get that bye. Tampa is 2.5. So, I mean, Baltimore could lose 3, Tampa win 3, and then they could beat them out for their American League East, but not that. So, top 2 division winners in each league receive byes to the division series. The other 4 teams will play a best of 3 series in the wild card round, and so that may be different for some people. If they remember back in the last time the Royals were in the wild card game, it was a 1 game, and it was one of the most exciting games in Royals history.
I think it was in baseball history.
It was pretty exciting. So, but that's the way the format works today. And so there's still some teams with a lot to play for. The American League West is not settled between Texas and Houston. The Rangers are our biggest fans right now because we put a whooping on the Astros, which is hard to believe that we beat the Astros like 5 out of 6 games. And so That's pretty impressive for us. Like you said, Atlanta is 13 games clear of Philadelphia. Philadelphia has won a wild card spot, and so we know they'll be there. Milwaukee, kind of a surprise team this year. Nobody really had Milwaukee pegged to win that division. Most people thought the Cardinals would win that division, but Milwaukee has been hands down the best team in the division this year. And then the Dodgers keep rolling along, right? The Dodgers in the postseason has become basically synonymous, almost like the Chiefs in the postseason. The sad part is the Dodgers only got 1 World Series to show for it, but they are perennial winners out there, 14.5 games clear of Arizona, and you look for that to be the National League Championship game. I hope it is, to get the 2 best teams, or on paper for the length of the season. We look at our 162 games. The Dodgers and the Braves have been the standout teams, not taking anything away from a surprise Baltimore team. And Tampa, I think this is going to be Tampa's 5th straight year in the postseason. Also, they've yet to win that big elusive title, which would be huge for them. They're finally in a situation where they've got plans to get a new stadium, things like that. And so it could do a lot for Tampa, because the last thing you would want Tampa to do is what happened to Montreal, why Montreal essentially wound up being the Washington Nationals.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. So the Royals in 2015 or 2014 came out of nowhere. They barely made the playoff. They made the 1-game playoff against the A's, and it was an amazing game. And then they ran the tables to go to the World Series. Saying that, would you rather see a team like that to go and make a run like that, or would you rather have the 2 best teams in each division, in each league, fighting it out to play in the World Series.
Yeah, I'm kind of still old school. I'm trying to adjust to the wild card being a part of baseball. You know, I go back to the days of when you had two divisions in each league. They played the National League Championships and American League Championship Series, and then you went to the winter. So there was value in the regular season. I'm always one who places value on the regular season and what you do. You get 162 games to show who you are. Now, we are excited about a team that's playing well, but you know, that Royals team that you spoke of also had won, 90 games. That's a good season to go in and have an exciting playoff game and then get a chance to get all the way. And really we're 90 feet away from tying the game up. And, you know, how close people don't realize sometimes how close we came to winning back-to-back World Series. But if it wasn't for Madison Bumgarner, we win back-to-back World Series, right? He just single-handedly just whooped us whenever he was on the mound, and it was too hard to deal with him. But a part of that story also is the second half of 13. If you go back and you look, the second half of 13, those young guys started to come into their own, and then all of a sudden you started putting a few pieces around them. But your core guys of Locane, Hosmer, Moose, Alcides Escobar, Salvi, that core group of guys started to really gel. They had some success at the minor league levels, won some championships, and here they were, the second half of 13, carried it into 14. Well, 15 was just unfinished business.
Right. Exactly.
And they went out and handled business.
So in 13, Royals were developing what was the 14 and 15 teams. I know that the Royals right now are on verge of being the worst record in franchise history. How close are they to becoming 2013?
I think there are some pieces in place, certainly with Bobby, but I think there are some serious decisions that are going to have to be made this offseason. Does Salvi stay or does Salvi go? When you look at what we have on the left side with Bobby and Miguel Garcia, really, really good. We've got to find out, can Nick Prado play, right? There was a lot of money, time, and energy invested into him as a first-round pick in 2017. Gotten into the big leagues. He's played 140 big league games, and he still hadn't found his stroke. And you know, he'd always had a reputation of being a great first baseman, and so we're just trying to figure out where we go with that. There's still got to be some answers in the outfield. We've got a decent rotation in the outfield, but who's going to be the guy that steps forward and says, you know, I want to play every day. I don't want to be in a platoon situation. There's challenges with what do you do with MJ Melendez, who's a catcher by trade, but to get his bat in the lineup the last couple of years, we've put him out in the outfield. And, you know, the question is he going to stay in the outfield or is he going to go back behind the plate? And so there's a lot of challenges. I don't think we are where they were in 13. Here's the best thing that we've seen. They didn't quit the last month of the season.
Right.
There's something to be said for that. When you are essentially 30 games out of first place, no hope to make the playoffs, and the guys are still playing hard.
Right.
There's something to be said out of that. And we've won 6 out of our last 10, but we were at one time, we had won 9 out of 10. You know, we'd won 6 in a row. So there's a lot of good, you know, before, you know, we've lost our last 3 now, but there's a lot to be said for these guys not quitting the last half of the season, and especially these last couple of weeks when it's the dog days, August, September, it's hot. What are you playing for? Well, part of it is a lot of these young guys are playing for their major league careers. Right. And so they're still out there playing hard, and you're playing for some pride, and it's going to be a big deal this weekend. We got the Yankees coming into town. It's the last weekend of the season. There should be good crowds out, and so you want to go out and play well. And it's also the weekend that we also celebrate our minor league players of the year, the guys who have won the George Brett Award or the guys that have won the Paul Splittorff Award, and we get to recognize these guys for having great minor league seasons.
Right.
Well, those guys are coming up with dreams, saying, essentially, I want to take one of those guys' spots. You, as one of the young guys out there playing, you want to go and say, you ain't getting my spot.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and you were talking about that they won 5 or 6 from Houston, a team that is like fighting for the division and a playoff spot. But yet they turned right around and only won 3 out of 13 from the Detroit Tigers, which they got swept in a doubleheader today. Cole Reagans did pitch well for six innings, and then he just died. He just had nothing going into the 7th inning, and then that's when it fell apart, which has been the synopsis of this season. They have played well because out of those 10 losses that they had, 5 of them they were winning after the 6th inning and then turned around and lost it, which you can assess that to the bullpen because outside of Reagan's, no starter was pitching 6 innings or better.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cole Reagans has been a truly great acquisition for us, and he's gone out and he's been a workhorse out there. I mean, every game he's gone out, he's gone 6+ innings at least, giving us an opportunity to win basically every game that he's pitched in. And so for whatever reason, he hits a wall today. It happens to every pitcher. But at the end of the day, he gave us a chance.
Right.
And you're always hoping that the bullpen can close it out. Doesn't always work that. Sometimes baseball is like boxing. Styles make fights. For whatever reason, Detroit had our number this year.
Exactly.
For whatever reason, right? And for whatever reason, we had Houston's number.
Right.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Right. We say any given Sunday in football, well, baseball, it's day to day.
Right.
It's day to day as to who can go out there and perform well. And that's why it is many times the ultimate grind when it comes to team sports, because it's such a long season and you got to go in. It's day in and day out. You got to go out and put that effort in, and everybody's trying to do well. And we've got some questions to answer in the bullpen to figure out who's going to be that guy that you want, that automatic, that Trevor Hoffman, that Mariano Rivera, that comes out of the bullpen, and basically people start packing up for the other team because they know it's a wrap.
Yep.
And so we're still looking for that. We've got a lot of good arms that are still trying to identify and have the confidence that I am a major leaguer and I belong here, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to just close the door.
Absolutely. And I will tell you what, I will give them, and I really haven't given them any credit this year. The record speaks for itself, so I don't need to say anything. But I will say this. If they win all 3 games against New York and keep them and it keeps them from establishing the worst record in Royals franchise history, I will give them a lot of props because, this is the time. They could be the Denver Broncos from last weekend. They could just pack it in and say, hey, we're going to go place our vacations and stuff like that. But as you said, and I will give you, and I agree with you, they do not quit, but sometimes moral victories don't work. So, So with that, we're hoping for large crowds. And on Sunday, the Chiefs play Sunday night, so they're playing at 2:00. So there should be no reason in that people should say, "Well, I'm not because I'm watching a Chiefs game." No. The Royals are playing, and then the Chiefs play later tonight. So everybody needs to come out and support them.
It's a great sports weekend in Kansas City, and for whatever it's worth, to your point, September has been our best month of the season as far as our record. It's the only month of the season that we're over 500. We're 13-9 in September, so that guarantees us of having a winning month.
Yep.
for whatever that's worth. And our two next best months were July and August, for whatever that's worth, right?
Right.
And none of them were what you would call stellar months. But at the end of the day, if you look at the season, you know, we won more games. May was our next best month after, other than September. But then after that, it was July and like that. What we've got to do is figure out a way to have a good April.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
That is so key. We have struggled roughly since 2016
Yes.
of getting a great start. You know, we've started well in those years, you know, and then it showed at the
Yep.
end of the year, whereas now you're seeing what happens when you don't. Now, Bobby Witt Jr. has really been struggling since his last home run. He has gone 11 games batting 184, 9 for 49 with 3 extra base hits. He is 1 home run and 1 stolen base away from being the first Royal with a 30-30. And if he can accomplish both the home run and the stolen base, he will get a 30-50, which very few people have done in the history of baseball. What does Bobby Witt need to do to obtain this? He's got 3 games.
Just go out and play baseball and just allow the game to come to him naturally and do what he's done. He's put these numbers up by just going and playing baseball. Every hitter is going to have a hot streak. Every hitter is going to have a cold streak. Consistency is the guys that their hot streaks last longer and their cold streaks are shorter. And so he just has to go out and play baseball. He can't think about that. As long as he goes out and says, I'm here today to help my team win a game, then the home run will come, the stolen base will come. But I think the more you start to think about it, the more people start to talk about it, the more you press, and that probably is where he was at a little bit this year. A couple of times during the year he was pressing a little bit early in the season. Then he finally got it figured out, and we've seen the second half of 2023, we've seen the guy that we believe that he could be, right? He had the hard part is we've been talking about him so much, everybody forgets it's just his second full season in the big leagues.
Right.
As a 23-year-old, and, you know, he had just a little bit of time at AA, a little bit of time at AAA. Yeah, remember, we just drafted this kid out of high school in 2019.
Right, and then COVID screwed everything
He
up.
missed 2020. You know, he was at the alternate site, which was a big, you know, opportunity for him to continue to develop as a player. But it's not the same as being on the road and having to deal with the bus and hotels and everything like that. And then he comes out and he's the minor league player of the year in 2021 in all of baseball. So this kid's done nothing but give us hope and a promise of that we have a franchise level shortstop that's going to give us an opportunity to build around him.
Unfortunately, we've put the expectations really super high because of the fact of the success of the Royals, or should say lack of success, that they are really putting the hope on them. So a lot of times, you know, putting that on a young kid like that, you know, I mean, yes, he's going to be a phenomenal player, but still, he's still a young player. So, so we are done with baseball. Let's get real quick. College football, Colorado, they lost. Missouri, Kansas, and K-State for the first time in several years. All 3 of them are in the top 25. So, so that's great. That's great for that. Kansas went 4-0 for the second straight year for the first time since 1914-1915 season. So that is a long time ago. But saying that, going back to Colorado, they lost. They played Oregon. Oregon, hey, they are one of those teams, kind of like Alabama, Michigan, Georgia. You know, you don't want to ruffle their feathers because they will put the beating onto you. So now, what does Deion Sanders have to do to get his team ready to play another powerhouse?
Regardless of what happens, Colorado has won this year. They won 1 game last year.
Right.
Okay. This year they've beating a ranked opponent. They won their first 3 games out. They played a veteran team, and as Coach Prime said, that was a good old-fashioned butt whooping, right? Colorado and their weaknesses of what they have in their program was exposed. It's what I saw in the spring game, that they're a little bit weak up front. They're a little bit weak in the defensive line. They got skill position guys, but when you can't run the ball, and they haven't been able to run the ball, they've only averaged like 56 yards a game rushing. It makes it very difficult. What he's got to remind his guys of is we can't feel sorry for ourselves because they're hitting the meat of the schedule, and everybody knew it, right?
Right.
And when everybody looked at the schedule, everybody's like, well, they'll be lucky if they get 2 wins, 3 wins, you know. But this back-to-back gauntlet of the games that everybody knew were going to be the challenge games. They knew that Oregon was going to be a challenge. Here's a stat for you, right? Oregon's quarterback, Bo Nix, played against Justin Herbert. That's how long that guy's been in college football.
Oh, my gosh.
That guy's a veteran.
Yes.
This is Justin Herbert's 4th year in the league, right? So that's how long he's been in college. He's
Right.
one of those guys that's about a 6-year guy from being a red shirt and a COVID year and all of that. So he's mature. He's been around. They've got a lot of those guys on that team, and that is a team to be reckoned with for everybody, not just Colorado,
Right.
but everybody. So, but they can't feel sorry for themselves. They got to pick themselves off the floor. They can't worry about Travis. Travis is not out there,
Right.
right? And that's a big deal. That's a big
Huge,
deal.
Huge.
That is a big deal. Whether people want to mean that doesn't mean they beat Oregon, but that's a
Right.
big deal because what you can't do is you don't have a guy that can all of a sudden change the momentum of the game immediately by a play that he can make offensively or defensively. And we saw that week 1. He made those plays. And so and then there was a chemistry between he and Shedeur Sanders that it was easy for Shedeur to take those chances throwing the ball and give him like that. Shedeur has been sacked like 19 times already this year. The line has to get better.
Right.
But I think Coach Prime said it right. This is as bad as we're going to be because he's going to get some more good linemen and people like that coming in to go with those skill guys, and they'll have a chance to get better. You're also going to lose a couple of teams, right? You're going to lose UCLA and USC to the Big Ten. And so those are 2 games that you don't have to. But everybody knew on the schedule the game against Oregon, the game against SC, the game against Utah. Now Washington State is playing really, really well. Is going to be very, very difficult for them moving forward. But even if they come out of this 8-4, 7-5,
Oh, yeah.
that's unbelievable. And the people who struggle with it, Deion said it best. Don't let my confidence, mess with your insecurity, because this is who he's been his entire career.
Exactly.
Okay.
From the moment he stepped on the field in high school
Yeah.
to Florida State to Atlanta to the Atlanta Braves. I mean,
He's
everywhere.
always played with that confidence and that swagger and that attitude of that's who he is.
Yep.
And so like he says, don't let my confidence be your insecurity.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll go into the NFL. The Chiefs put a whipping on the worst team in football. Miami put a whipping on the worst team in football. This is the first time ever that there are 2 teams that are ranked 32nd. It is so bad that you've got a 30 ranked team and then a 32nd and a 32nd. Both of them are horrible. I mean, and for Denver just to give up on them and just let them just do whatever they wanted. I mean, they were trying to just run the ball. They wasn't really trying to just throw it all over the place. They were just running the ball and running it for 60, 70 yards.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't an NFL game. That was like Bama playing Tennessee Tech,
Right.
Just like it's gonna be a slaughterhouse, right? To be able to go out there.
bring in subs, and then they turn around and they play well.
Absolutely. So yeah, you know, what do you say in a situation like that? Is Miami that good? Denver that bad? Probably a little bit of both. And we see that Miami's offense is clicking week to week. Tua looks really, really good, but we saw glimpses of it last year.
Right.
Whenever he was healthy, they really were effective offensively.
Right.
When he wasn't healthy and when he was coming back from injury, there were some issues, and then they couldn't get that big win they needed, big stops that they needed defensively. They made some adjustments defensively, and so I think they're going to be a team, obviously, to be reckoned with as we speak today, with limited injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and ironically, he was the offensive player of the month for the AFC, to go with T.J. Watt on defense and Tyler Bass on the special teams. And for the NFC, Christian McCaffrey was the offensive player, Micah Parsons the defensive player, and Jake Camarda, and he was a punter. Now that should tell you something, that if your punter is the player of the month, I don't care. You can say Parsons and you don't question it. You can say McCaffrey and you don't question it. But Camarda, and you got to question that. There wasn't a kicker that did better than that or something. So, but anyway, so here is my top 10 power ranking. I got Miami. I jumped them up to 1, San Francisco 2, Philadelphia 3, Kansas City 4, Dallas 5, Seattle 6, Buffalo 7, Cleveland 8, Baltimore 9, and Pittsburgh 10.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that you kind of agree, maybe a little higher, a little lower?
I think that sounds about right. Where'd you have Philly?
I have Philly 3.
Okay.
Behind Miami and San Francisco. And the only reason why I moved Miami up was because of what they did. Only they're the 4th team in NFL history to score 70 points. The first one was the Chicago Bears in 1940 in the championship game against Washington, 73-0. Mm-hmm. And then you had 1950 where the Rams beat the Baltimore Colts, not the Indianapolis Colts, but the Baltimore Colts, 70-27. And then Washington in 66, the year we were born, 72-41 over the Giants. And I want to say that is one of the most highest scoring games, if not the highest scoring game. So you go 57 years before somebody else scores 70 points. That should tell you something. And I will say this, Miami's offense was scary. And here is the ironic thing. Their second receiver was not playing that day.
Mm-hmm.
He was injured and was on the inactive list. So to turn around and score 70 points still. But saying that, they still people said that the best half of football was the Chiefs.
Okay. So give me 6 through 10 again.
See, Seattle, Buffalo, Cleveland, Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
I probably maybe make one change. I like everybody that's in there. I might probably would trade the Steelers with the Packers. I think the Packers have been really good. They got identical records, and they don't have a blowout loss.
No,
right? And
but they don't have. Well, I guess you could say the signature win this past Sunday, because the fact that they were down 17-0 and came back and won. So I will give them that. But
the question is their best win better than Pittsburgh's loss?
I could say that because Green Bay's loss, which was a 1-point loss to Atlanta in the opening weekend, was because their best offensive player, Aaron Jones, did not play. Oh, no.
You're right.
No, it was the second week.
Second week.
Aaron Jones did not play, and because of that, I believe they would have.
So
won.
their 2 wins are versus the Bears, which they handled pretty well, and then they eked out versus the Saints,
which is a decent team.
Saints are really good defensively.
Right.
The Saints are really good defensively. They have not allowed more than 20 points in like 13 or 14 consecutive games.
Right.
So that's a big deal to go in there and to be able to get that game. Like I said, the Steelers, credit to Mike Tomlin for being able to bounce back. I do think they benefited from that Monday night game of Nick Chubb getting hurt. So I don't want to take anything away from them. And so they've beaten the Raiders and the Browns lost Chubb that night.
Right.
But they got handled by the 49ers.
Oh, yeah. But
so
49ers is number one in the
absolutely
NFC,
right.
So, yeah.
But again, it was how you got beat.
Right.
You got handled.
They did. At home.
At home, right?
It wasn't
And
in
so
San Francisco.
I just believe that for me, their 2-1 could easily be 1-2.
Yes.
Right. Just they beat the Raiders. And that went down to late in the game, and like I say, the Cleveland game changed once Chubb was out.
Right.
So,
and they still had to score defensive touchdowns to beat them.
Absolutely. So, again, that would be probably my only change. I'd probably put the Packers over the Steelers, but they're 10 and 10A.
Right. Gotcha. And then the bottom 10, I have Tennessee, Arizona, Houston, New York Giants, New England, Minnesota, Las Vegas, Carolina, New York Jets, Denver, and Chicago. And Denver or Chicago are interchangeable. I will just say they are the worst in their division.
I'm gonna give Chicago the worst just because at least Denver has scored some points. They've been terrible defensively.
Right.
Chicago has been bad on both sides of the ball.
Right.
Right. And they can't block a lick.
No.
Right.
No.
They're going to get their quarterback hurt.
No, the backup quarterback for the Chiefs virtually gave them those points because they were 10 points off of turnovers. And had Mahomes been playing, they probably would have put a 50 on him. So, yeah, absolutely. So we are at halftime on any given Sunday. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will continue on, and then we will do our predictions for Week 4 of the NFL. We'll tell you where we're ranked at with the NFL Network guys that are morning team that's on Sunday. And with that, we will take a break.
All right, yeah, you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global radio station, and we're coming to you live from KUAW Studios in the WEB Du Bois Learning Center, 4510 East Linwood Boulevard. Want to let you know that this show and our other favorite live shows will begin broadcasting in the historic Jazz District at 18th and Highland starting next week. So next week, if you happen to be driving through on your FM radio, tune in to 100.5 KOJH. That's for Kansas City's oldest jazz house, and you'll hear Any Given Sunday. A lot of KUAW shows will be broadcasting live from KOJH starting in October.
We're ready anytime. We are back with Any Given Sunday. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. Across from me, Coach 24, Darwin Penny. Behind the scenes, running the show, DJ Scatter, George Walker. I just looked right at the last second. I was like, ah! So, sorry about that, folks. So, anyway, so last week, everybody was pretty much, well, Gerald McCoy, who was actually doing very well, went 7-9. He picked a lot of lone wolves and lost. But there were 3 losses last week where everybody picked that team and that team lost. Indy at Baltimore, Houston at Jacksonville, and Dallas at Arizona. Out of those 3 losses, which one is the most surprising?
Dallas versus the Cardinals, simply because, Dallas had looked really well the first 2 weeks, regardless of people will say strength of schedule or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're a good team and you squeak by bad teams, then there's a problem. But when you blow them out, then you really had. Nothing said that Dobbs was going to play as well as he did. You knew going into the game Diggs was out. You didn't know they were going to be without 3 offensive linemen, but nothing said that they were going to lose. Even as I was catching the second half of the game in a pizza parlor in Chicago, I'm like, they're going to come back. Mm-hmm. I didn't care about the first half. They're going to come back, right? And everything was pointing there. And then all of a sudden the untimed pick, and then the Cardinals capitalized on it. And all of a sudden what was about to potentially be a tie game, then now it's 28-16.
Right.
But that was by far for me the most surprise.
So saying that, and I know the defense, you're going to have a bad game. I mean, the Bears of '85 had a bad game. So, but how concerned are you with the offense?
I'm concerned from a standpoint of the offense is just not been efficient in the red zone, and I think that's where. But I tell people, here's the thing that you got to remember. For whatever reason, or people said he was done, and it was the reason why I told you in many of our golf matches I didn't want to get rid of Zeke.
Right.
Zeke had 12 red zone rushing touchdowns last year. That matters.
Right.
Dalton Schultz had 6 red zone TD receptions last year. That's 18 red zone, and that's where they're having their issue. They're not having an issue getting up and down the field. The issue has been in the red zone, not turning those opportunities in the touchdowns. So McCarthy's got to get his red zone plays to find out what those favorite plays are and who those favorite people are to then turn those field goals into touchdowns. Again, you shore that up, then there's like that. My bigger issue was them getting gashed in the running game last week.
Right.
That was the one thing that has always been kind of a little Achilles heel since Dan Quinn has been the DC. Is they get the turnovers, they do really good in rushing the passer and defending the pass, but they still were always a little susceptible to the run. That was the reason why they drafted Mozzie Smith, is to get better in that. In the first 2 weeks, it looked like. You think that you keep Saquon bottled up, okay.
Right.
You shouldn't have as much of a problem with the Cardinals running backs, which the guy that used to play for the Steelers,
James Conner.
James Conner, he's not what he used to be.
No, but he's that Ezekiel Elliott because
absolutely, he's still good.
He's still good.
He's still good in the red zone,
yep.
right? I remember I had him on a couple of fantasy teams,
yep.
right? And he could just get that touchdown. So you got him and another guy, and they gave up 200 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. That's a problem for me more than the red zone can get ironed out.
Now, I will give you this stat. The last 8 games, including this one on past Sunday, the Cardinals are 7-1 against.
Yeah.
And the only win, this is again, since 2008, the only win was in 2017, which I believe was Dak Prescott's and Ezekiel Elliott's second year.
Yeah.
They won 28-17. Other than that,
whatever reason, the Cardinals have had their number, right? And you can go back even farther than that. You can go back basically since if anybody remembers the 99 playoffs, and the Cardinals were the wild card, and they go in there and beat Dallas in Old Texas Stadium like 20-7, and it was basically the last straw of the triplets. Michael Irvin had gotten hurt earlier in the year. It was Emmett's next to last year, and then it was Troy's next to last year, and it was 2 years before Emmett would be gone once he broke the rushing record.
Right.
So it was truly what I call the beginning of it was the end of the triplets as we know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the Cardinals just for whatever reason they've had since 2000, really since 99, they've had the Cowboys number.
Right. And Baltimore, they had been squeaking by victories. So I wasn't as surprised, though I was still shocked. The Jacksonville one, because I really thought that they were up and coming. And Houston had been starting off slow. This was your opportunity to take advantage. You just lost a close game to a formidable opponent that you're going to fight for in the playoffs, and then you turn around and do that, a 20-point loss.
Is it a trap game? Is it a looking forward to? They're the same old Texans. They were bad. They can't even get anything right. They couldn't even get the first pick right by winning the last game of the year last year, right? So all those things probably factored in, but the one thing that we know is DeMeco Ryans is really good at calling defenses, and he's got some guys defensively, and their quarterback has been arguably the best rookie quarterback, right?
He was rookie quarterback of the month.
You're right. You're looking at him. Richardson got hurt. He was playing okay. The guy that they took number 1 overall now is basically sitting and watching. And Bryce Young, and I said last year, if I had the first pick, I would have taken Stroud.
Right. Yeah, you did.
I told you I don't like little quarterbacks.
Nope, you
right?
don't.
They stay hurt, and so his size, and everybody will say, well, he's been that size his whole life. That's okay. It's a grown man's game. We're not in college anymore, and the talent, he's also not where he was in high school, where he had superior talent. He went to one of the most ultra-talented high schools at Mater Dei, and then ultra-talent at Alabama, where those linemen can't get to you. Your guys are just better than theirs. Well, now you don't have that.
No, everybody is Alabama.
Everybody's better than you now.
Yeah.
And that's hard on a small body. And so, again, I didn't think there was a big difference between him and Stroud, and I just said, just for me, I would have taken Stroud number 1
Yep.
over Bryce Young unless you were committed to saying his first year he's not going to play.
Right.
And you can't do that with the money structure now.
And you know what? Andy Dalton really didn't do that bad. They still lost one of 4 teams that hasn't had a win, but still, maybe he needs to do a Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes type thing, and
Absolutely.
and watch him develop,
Right.
and then
I tell people all the time, and it's not a indictment of Mahomes or anything else, but it was the best thing happened to him is to be able to sit for a year. You're going into a playoff team. He didn't have to take the team with the first pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. He walks in with a proven track record winning head coach. Patrick Mahomes walked into the best situation he could walk into.
Absolutely.
Now, he took for the people who remember, he took the Nissan 280ZX, right, and turbocharged it, right? And so we see what we see. But he did not have to go through what these other rookie quarterbacks are going through, running for just come in running for your life, and you don't get a chance to breathe and take the NFL in and to learn and to do any of those things, right? Yeah. The Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, is just a solid guy, right? He was a solid quarterback when he was in Cincinnati. Nothing spectacular, but just solid, right? And now he's a great guy to have on your bench. He's going to help your rookie quarter get better. And if you need him in a pinch, he can go out there and deliver for you in a pinch, right? He ain't going to win you a title, but what he can do is he can keep the Titanic from sinking.
And that's the most important part, because if Bryce Young, did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah, Bryce Young gets beat up, he's not going to be very effective.
It's not if, it's when he gets beat up.
Well, that's
right?
That's true.
He's Kyler 2.0 and not as elusive.
Right, but he has a decent coach in Frank Wright. I mean, he should, Frank Wright should know this, and
he knows it from an offensive standpoint, but what he's having to deal with a culture change also. And they don't have all of the pieces in place. And their best receiver, they let now playing for Chicago.
Right.
Things like that. And they brought Thielen over, but he had his one big year and really has been average since then, right?
Average and hurt.
Average and hurt.
Yep.
So that's the challenge for this young man. And the weight of the expectations. The other thing is, I'm thankful that young man is not in New York, having to deal with the New York media. That's the other thing that I'll say again about Mahomes. You're in Kansas City, right? The media ain't going to kill you like New York or in Dallas.
No, and here's the proof. Taylor Swift was at the game, and they, Travis Kelce was saying, yeah, I dealt with the media. Well, now he's realizing what the media is, because Taylor Swift is on another island. And I mean, because she keeps private. So whenever they get a chance to, say, hey, there she is, they're going to take full advantage. And now she's going to be in New York with them up there, with the Chiefs playing the Jets. Woo! I'll tell you what.
Paparazzi.
Yep, absolutely. So this past week, you struggled a little bit, went 9-7. You are 31 and 17, which is second place next to Michael Irvin, who is 32 and 16. And there's a whole bunch of us that are tied with 30 and 18. Me, Rich Eisen, Steve Mariucci, and that's it, because then Kirk Warner is 29 and 19, and then Gerald McCoy. He struggled last week after having a great first week, 7 and 9, and he's 27 and 19. So with that, we have week 4 of the NFL, and tonight we have the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. Detroit has won the last 3 out of 4 with Dan Campbell as the coach. They beat Green Bay last year to knock them out of the playoffs. Who do you have tonight? And it is at Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers at home. I see some chinks in that Detroit armor. I think they are a good team, and I think it'll come down to when they play each other the next time which should decide that division, because I think Minnesota's pretty much. I think they're done, man.
You think Detroit is done?
No.
Oh.
Minnesota's done. The
yeah.
Bears are done. So
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
two-team race, right? And so this is going to be huge as far as the standings are concerned, and who wins that division.
I've got Detroit, and obviously I'm wearing Barry Sanders' jersey to show who I'm picking. If Detroit wins tonight, it will be the first time that they will be in sole possession of first place since 2017.
That's about right.
So it's been a while. We have a London visit. Atlanta playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Atlanta has won 6 in a row and they have been playing well lately. Jacksonville, if they win this game, will be one of 6 teams to have 3+ wins on the international grounds.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I think last week was more of a fluke than anything else. I think they are the better team overall than the Falcons. But, if the Falcons get another couple of wins under their belt, they might start doing the dirty bird again.
Yep, absolutely. I am going to go with Atlanta.
Okay.
I think Jacksonville got exposed. Atlanta has been playing good running football. Jacksonville, I don't think stops the run very well. They did decent with the passing. Chiefs doesn't have the greatest running game, so I can't compare that. But Atlanta does have a great running game. So with that, I give them the edge. Miami at Buffalo, and arguably will be the best game of the week. I have Buffalo.
I'm gonna go with the Dolphins until they prove otherwise. I want to go with Buffalo at home, but I don't know. I think they got something. I think they got something. They figured out something down there, and they've got so much speed.
Right.
Man, I just think that could present problems. Josh Allen is a roller coaster.
Right. But Josh Allen is 4-1 against Tua, and Miami is 1-11 in the last 12 games in Buffalo. That's why I've got Buffalo.
Due for it. It's like the guy that's 0 for 20 at the plate. He's due.
Yeah, exactly. So, the game of the winless, Minnesota at Carolina.
I'm gonna take the Vikings. Offensively they're better. They just got to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I think Minnesota is a better team than 0-3. They just haven't done anything to prove that they're better than 0-3, but I will pick Minnesota. Saying that, Panthers the last time went 0-3 was in 2010, and that next year they picked Cam Newton as the number 1 pick. So, the game of the day, the Denver Broncos at the Chicago Bears.
The Bears. God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going with the Broncos. I just feel like they can score better than the Bears can.
And here's the thing. Chicago has lost their last 8 games at Soldier Field, which is the most in franchise history. And if you people realize, this franchise has been since 1920, so 104 years old. And for them to do that, I'm going to go with Denver too. I have to give the edge to coaching, and even though Sean Payton has done a terrible job so far, I'm going to give him a little bit of credit. Baltimore at Cleveland.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I think the Ravens bounce back, and they should beat the Browns. There's still something wrong with Deshaun.
Well, I'm going to the Browns are number 1 in defense, 10.7 points, and yards per game, 163.7. Baltimore's offense even though Jackson has completed 73.3% of his passes, which is a career high right now, they still are not really scoring a lot of points. I'm going to give the Cleveland defense. I'm going to go with Cleveland. Pittsburgh at Houston.
Just give me the Steelers.
Yep, I will agree with that. I think Houston was a 1-week wonder. The Rams at Indianapolis. Now, I will say this. Aaron Donald is Indy is one of 3 teams, not counting the Rams, obviously, because he's played for the Rams, that he has not had a sack against. Do you know the other 2?
I don't.
It would be the Eagles, who they will have a chance to play. The Rams will play this year, and the Jets.
Okay.
So, saying that,
He definitely gonna get one against the Jets.
yes, he's going to get one against the Jets, and I believe he will get one against Indy too.
Yeah. With that said, the Rams are just they're inconsistent, man. Kind of disappointed in them. The Colts are playing inspired football, and nobody knows why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with the Colts at home.
I'm going to go with the Rams.
Okay.
Tampa Bay at New Orleans.
I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna give the Saints defense some credit, and I'm gonna take them.
I am too. Even with Tom Brady playing for Tampa Bay, New Orleans always seemed to have their number.
They did.
So I've got the Saints too. Washington at Philadelphia.
Well, Washington's pumpkin has been burst as we're going to be in October, so I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
I totally agree with you. So, Cincinnati at Tennessee.
This is a hard one for me. Everything in me wants to pick the Bengals, and so
Let me give you a couple of stats to help
I'm
you.
gonna pick the Titans.
You're going to pick the Titans? Okay. Derrick Henry needs 77 yards to pass Earl Campbell for second all-time in rushing behind
Eddie George.
Eddie George.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Taylor is 3-0 against Mike Vrabel.
Going with the Titans. Bengals got some issues.
So does Tennessee. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Las Vegas versus at the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm gonna go with the Chargers, just cause they're at home, plain and simple.
Yep. And I think Vegas is a bigger mess. And Garofalo, you don't know if he's even going to play this week. New England at Dallas. Now, Belichick is 5-1 versus Dallas, but
With
Dallas
Tom Brady.
right. But Dallas
With
is top,
Tom Brady.
but Dallas is top 3 in scoring, pass defense, sacks, and takeaways.
With Tom Brady. Okay, I'm going with Dallas. Come on.
Yes. Yeah. No New England. No. Arizona at San Francisco.
I'm gonna go with the 49ers. Cardinals come back to earth. If the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks beat the Cowboys and the Niners, Arizona is gonna probably get a new state flag or something. It's gonna be incredible.
Well, they're going to be glad they got rid of Cliff.
Yeah. Oh, they should have been that anyway.
Okay, Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs and Taylor Swift at the New York Giants.
I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Swifts.
Absolutely. Now, you know they had it in Philadelphia, too. They had a Kelsey and a Swift.
Yeah.
I have the Chiefs also. Monday Night Football, Seattle at New York Giants. Seattle is 5-0 at the MetLife since it opened in 2010, including playoffs. And the best one, Danny Dimes, is 0-6 on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, that's way too much pressure for him. So I'm going with Gino and the Hawks.
Yep. I don't see Danny Dimes doing anything to put that one win into his Monday night repertoire. So we've got our picks and we've got it set up. Now we are in for the best segment of the show, Penny for Your Thoughts.
Penny for Your Thoughts this week. We want to celebrate the life, the legacy of Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson, who we lost this week at age 86. Brooks Robinson was, for many years, the standard at third base when it comes to defensive play. They called him the human vacuum cleaner. But more than that, he was just an outstanding individual. He had small country roots growing up in Arkansas, and he never turned down kids for autographs or to shake your hand. And every year he still made it back to Cooperstown. Just a guy who was the 1970 World Series MVP, just the epitome of what a major league player. And when you looked at him, he wasn't physically imposing or anything like that. He was just a guts and glory guy who went out there and gave you everything that he had every day for 22 big league seasons and like 18 gold gloves. But he set the standard of what a third baseman ought to be. And so we just want to offer our condolences to the Robinson family, to the Baltimore Orioles organization as a whole, to his home state, the state of Arkansas. But thank you, Mr. Robinson, for showing us what a major leaguer ought to be like.
Absolutely. So rest in peace, Mr. Robinson. And with that, on a phenomenal show, I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice, with Coach 24, Darwin Penny, and DJ Scatter, George Walker. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal, awesome sports weekend.